Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back, gang, to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. You know, whether it be fake news, sports headlines, a new Star Wars movie, or the latest trends, it often feels like that there are ready-made narratives to follow each day when we get out of bed in the morning and reach for our smartphones. And these trends quickly become old news as the next narrative arrives on the scene by mid-afternoon. Now, I recently discovered a company called Protagonist. Now, they are a narrative analytics company that provides brand data to enterprises for marketing purposes. Now, the platform uses natural language processing and machine learning to analyse millions of data points via all media channels, and that includes all those social channels too. And they're going to be introducing new marketing and communication offerings to enhance data-driven messaging. And they're going to be introducing new marketing and communication offerings to enhance those data-driven messaging, channel strategies, development and brand signature tracking, all through the Protagonist platform. I think it's a really interesting interview, this one, and I hope you come away with it learning as much as I did. So buckle up, hold on tight, so I can beam your ears all the way to San Francisco so we can speak with Doug Randall, CEO of Protagonist. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell me a little about who you are and what you do?
Thanks so much. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. So I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Protagonist. We're based here in San Francisco with an office in Washington, D.C., and we're the company that pioneered narrative analytics.
Fantastic. Now, my understanding is Protagonist is a narrative analytics company that provides brand data to enterprises, all for marketing purposes. But for those that are tuning in today and they're on their commute or walking their dog, listening, thinking, what is narrative analytics? Can you set the scene and help them understand what problems you solve for businesses today that nobody else can with Protagonist?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to share that with you. And I hope there are lots of people walking their dogs thinking, what is narrative analytics? So the core here is narratives, right? And those are the underlying beliefs that drive behavior. And narratives impact all kinds of things. They impact political elections. They impact our fundamental beliefs about how the world works, and they impact whether or not we're going to buy a product or service from a big company. The challenge with narratives has always been, how do we understand what those are? And what we at Protagonist are doing is using machine learning and natural language processing to systematically and quantitatively and rigorously identify what those narratives are and measure them over time. So this is all coming from a place of, today people are expressing themselves everywhere, in social media, traditional media, on websites and blogs. There's just an overwhelming amount of information out there. And it's hard for marketers to tune in and understand everything that's being said, and to put that into a framework of what are the core logics that people have about issues that are important. And what narrative analytics does is it provides a technology to actually do that on a systematic, rigorous basis.
Now, the Protagonist platform was also built on 10 years of narrative science that I believe was initially developed to improve the American brand around the world for the US government. And can you tell me more about your journey as a company from beginning 10 years ago to serving those big name clients now, such as LinkedIn, Warner Brothers, and so many more?
Yes. Well, we've been very fortunate to work with some of the most interesting, powerful, and important organizations in the world. And the first one was the United States government. We were asked to work in the intelligence community early on, where they were trying to get to new approaches to understand what foreign audience believed about America. So they wanted to know, what does the population of India or Pakistan or Afghanistan, or the UK for that matter, believe about Americans, American ideals, about the social, political, economic environments here in America. And so we at the time, you're right, about 10 years ago, started to do this work. And the work that we did was being done by political scientists and social scientists and academic researchers who would give the pulse of what these underlying beliefs were. We translated that into a whole lot of work for the government. We started to do counterterrorism work. We started to help in messaging and negotiations. And then we realized two things. One was we could bring this to corporations and foundations and have an even bigger impact, as well as continuing with the government. And two, we could use technology to do it. And so that's when we changed our name to Protagonist. We said we're going to be the heroes in this journey. We changed our name, and we started to build a technology platform that actually accomplishes this idea, this vision of identifying, measuring, and helping people take control of the narratives around their organizations.
Fantastic. And here we are in 2017, and you recently announced a newly expanded platform with new features and capabilities that, like you mentioned earlier on in the show there, that uses natural language processing and machine learning to analyse millions of data points, all via media channels, social included. But can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the basic idea here has been, can we use technology to answer this question that before now, what are the narratives? The question that before now was really answered by gut and intuition. If you're a chocolate company and you're concerned about how people in the world are viewing sugar, as an example, and whether or not they're going to move away from consuming chocolate because of increased concern over the healthiness of sugar, you really want to know, what are those beliefs? How have they changed? What are the true stories that people hold about chocolate? Because they hold a lot. Some of the stories are about, the indulgence and their love for chocolate. Some of them are about real scientific concerns about sugar. Some of them are quite negative about the idea that chocolate companies are the next generation tobacco companies, right? Hiding information that they have about the lack of healthfulness of their products. There's so many different angles, so many different stories. But if you're sitting squarely in the marketing department or the public affairs department of a company that's being influenced by narratives like that, you need a way to systematically understand them, to understand what it is people are believing, how that's changing, and then how to message to them so that you can meet them where they are and bring them to where you want them to be. And so narrative analytics was created to do that. And what we needed to do was we needed to figure out, how can we do this systematically? And that's where the natural language processing and the machine learning comes in. Natural language processing lets us get at understanding and deeper beliefs. And the machine learning lets us do that at scale.
So what were your biggest challenges in introducing natural language processing and machine learning into a brand new platform? I would imagine you reached more than a few obstacles along the way.
Oh, yeah. So remember, we started with political scientists and social scientists and a whole range of kinds of people who could solve problems on a one-off basis. But when you're building technology and software, everything you need to do needs to scale and be repeatable. And so the kinds of challenges that we ran into were, so what is it that we're measuring? What is a narrative? How do we distinguish between what social media monitoring does, which is just sort of says, here's how often a word is being mentioned, to underlying meaning. And when we figured that out, how to get to underlying meaning rather than just words, it was really a game changer for us, because now what we're able to do is help people understand what all those narratives are.
So this technology also enabled you to add supplementary features, including new messaging, channel and influencer playbooks. But what value is that actually bringing to clients, just to help listeners understand those tangible benefits that you're actually bringing?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, so the basic idea here is really straightforward. It's that if you want to connect with people, you should use their language. You should talk to them in the channels that they're talking in. You should connect with the influencers who have the same beliefs. So the problem has been knowing where that's happening. What are the specific words that people use to talk about their beliefs? Who are the people who hold similar beliefs, and where is it that they're talking about or writing about those things? And so what narrative analytics does is it makes all of that knowable. That way, if you have a messaging campaign or a marketing campaign and you want to know exactly what words to use, rather than trying to imagine those and have your creative agency figure those out for you, you can actually find out what words are being used in the first person by the people who are actually discussing those issues, and then use that to connect and resonate more effectively. So it's a really straightforward concept, really around mirroring and connecting with people and meeting them where they are.
So what industries are you primarily serving with Protagonist? And are there any other industries that you could target in the future or think there are opportunities worth exploring?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now we're focused in financial services, healthcare, technology, and consumer products. But really, the company is really oriented around where is there an important discourse that has a meaningful impact on a customer. And so we can really serve almost any industry, provided the overall discourse is what's mattering to them. So I think that anyone that's being affected by regulation, anyone who's being affected by large threats from consumers or opportunities from consumers. There's a lot of companies in America these days that are worried about boycotts. Right? A company like Uber, who was really concerned about people did stop using Uber due to narratives about how they treated employees and how they treated the people around them, winds up being a target of opportunity for us. So we're just looking for anyone whose organization has forces acting on them that need to be understood more effectively.
Now, here in 2017, everyone and every business seems to be obsessed of talking about AI and taking it seriously. But I've got to ask, how do you see those conversations and the technology actually developing in 2018?
Yeah, I do think we're going to see a shift in this conversation. We are going to, I think, finally graduate from the discussion of AI is going to take away jobs. This conversation, I mean, I suppose at some level it might be true that some jobs will go away, but that's not that should not be and will not be the gist of the conversation in AI down the road. I think we're going to also move away from the conversation of AI just being about doing things faster. I think what we're really going to start to hear about is what are the new things that artificial intelligence lets people do that they couldn't do before. The totally new capabilities. So the big one that everyone talks about, is, of course, is self-driving cars, right? Impossible without AI, and a big deal. That's a game changer when that actually happens, which will be sometime in the future. But in marketing, I think that there's some more straightforward applications. One's just like narrative analytics that lets you do something that you couldn't do before. It was impossible if a marketer wanted to understand what people believe by reading every single thing that's out there, synthesizing it, and then coming up with a framework from that. It was impossible before. You would have to send armies of people out to do that if it was a big topic. But AI lets you do that. And so I think artificial intelligence applied smartly is going to change marketing analytics fundamentally. I think we're going to start to see more discussion about those kinds of applications, which is really exciting.
Yeah, it really is. And a topic that we don't hear about, it's not about the jobs that are disappearing. It's about the new roles, the new skills, and how we train and prepare for that, isn't it?
Exactly.
So is there anything else that you can share with us today or any exciting opportunities about your focus for the year ahead?
Well, I guess the only thing I would say is just keep an eye on the narratives. I mean, look in your country and ours, we've had big narrative changes. Brexit, Trump, big narratives that were surprising to us. Yeah. But maybe they shouldn't have been. Maybe those narratives were already out there and we should have been watching them, understanding them, seeing their power. And if you're working at a company today, watch the narratives. I mean, look at Uber. Look at what happened to the CEO of Uber. It cost him, the narratives about him and his actions cost him his job. I think narratives in general have an enormous impact on organizations, often not well understood. And if you can watch the narratives and you can see what people are actually believing, don't try to figure out if they're true or false as much as figure out what's causing them to spread. I think that's where we can really start to make some change. And we can start to understand each other better. So at the end of the day, narrative analytics is about providing empathy at scale, about understanding other people, understanding their stories so that we can connect, resonate, and make better decisions. And I think if we keep an eye on that, we're going to have a better world, sell more products, and be more connected.
Sounds ideal to me. I mean, speaking of narratives, I mean, one thing as we record this, to me at least, seems that blockchain and cryptocurrencies have gone from the subject only talked about by tech geeks to just about everyone now. It's on the verge of going mainstream, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to see the chart on that, where it was in the specialty publications where kind of, no one, where, only specialists understood and talked about it. And boom, now it's in the mainstream. And, people talk about it while they're walking their dogs.
Yeah. Well, if they're not listening to this podcast, of course. So if we have awoken the curiosity of the listener today, can you point them in the direction of your website, social channels, and also the best way of contacting your team if they've got any questions about our conversation?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for that. Yeah, check out our website. Lots of resources on there, www.protagonist.io. And just email me, Doug@protagonist.io. I'd be glad to chat with people and put you in touch with the right teams. Such a pleasure to be here today talking with you.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for coming on. I really do appreciate you taking the time, because narratives rule absolutely everything now. And to have that insight of exactly how they work and how you guys are managing it and getting valuable information out of it, and also obviously giving businesses tangible results as part of that is fantastic. So thanks for coming on today.
Thank you.
I think it's a fascinating concept, and the fact that Protagonist mines public beliefs or the pulse of the internet in order to empower brands with relevant marketing and targeted strategies, all by understanding their target audiences, is fascinating on its own. But using the technological advancements of natural language processing and machine learning and deep human expertise to identify, measure and shape narratives feels like a real game changer moment. And this got me thinking about those daily narratives that just seem to happen every day. I mean, is this something you have ever thought about? And what do you think about Protagonist, their tech, and how they're actually trying to leverage these insights? But now it's time for me to throw it all back to you. I want to hear your thoughts, your insights, your questions, because this isn't just me sat in a room talking to myself. I know you're out there listening. I've seen the stats each month. So why not send me a message by sending an email to techblogwriter@outlook.com, or equally you can send me a cheeky tweet at Neil C. Hughes. Well, I've really enjoyed accompanying your journey this week, wherever you are in the world. It would be nice to see a few pics of what you see each day, and I hope I've not sent you too many episodes or been slightly annoying. There's nothing worse than being caught next to that annoying guy on the train or bus to work, so hopefully I'm not him. And as long as I'm not, I'll return the same time tomorrow with another episode. So big thank you for listening to the show, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.